All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode 4 of the Integrity Racing Show. I'm your host, Todd Thomas. I'm joined tonight by Chris Freeman, who is the advisor for the Integrity Racing League. So we're going to talk to him about some of the behind-the-scenes things that he maybe does to assist Jacob, and 5 good minutes with him. We've also got League Administrator Jacob Pipe with us, as always. So look forward to seeing how the show goes tonight. So stick around. We're going to talk about the IRL meetup. We're going to update you on the rookie points. We're going to take an advanced look at the chase standings as we had a new and fresh winner on Monday night at Kansas Motor Speedway. So let's go ahead and talk about the race at Kansas this past Monday night. An interesting race, just to be certain. We had 12 cautions for 48 laps, so a little bit of roughness there. But what that did allow is for some drivers that maybe aren't typically towards the front to get up towards the front, and some drivers that are usually in the front of the pack had a lot of problems. So we're going to talk about that. But Brian Terry, your victory, and we're going to talk about that. So Jacob, you are one of the drivers that is usually up towards the front. You had some problems, so you were up in the admin tower for much of the race. So up above the Mike Helton suite, so to speak. How did you feel the race went?
Yeah, the Helton suite wasn't so sweet when you get wrecked out at lap 5, but no, I mean you have those nights sometimes, so it's understandable. But definitely different perspective. You get to see some different things that go on during the race that maybe you won't see while you're behind the wheel. Obviously, congratulations to Brian on his win. And we were talking about right before we went live tonight how that race played out. Really, race strategy came into play. The cautions kind of affected whether you came in and got tires or not, with it being so difficult to pass. And it made for an interesting race. I wish it was a little bit cleaner, but all in all, I think definitely congratulations go to Brian for the win.
All right, and Chris, a P29 finish for you, so it sounds like you had some rough goings as well. Just as Jacob said, it was very tough to pass. Kansas is known as one of those places that is tough to pass. From your perspective, kind of give us your feedback on the race Monday.
Yeah, so obviously the race did not go the way that I was hoping. Actually, Jacob and I practiced on Saturday and Sunday, and we both talked about how difficult it was going to be to pass there at the track. And I mean, it was very apparent from the very beginning. I made a very bad decision of how to avoid a wreck, and I think Jacob followed me right into it, or was a victim of my poor decisions. So that's always fun. But really for me, I went into the race with the strategy to try to stay clean, avoid the mess, drive conservative, and obviously if I could have done that, the chances of a decent finish were pretty good, because there were some people that got good finishes that you normally wouldn't see at the top of the board.
Absolutely, and let's talk about our winner. Fife has already talked about our winner a little bit, Brian Terry, and we were talking about him a little bit before the show in prep here. Not somebody that you're used to seeing up towards the front. He's currently 38th in points, or 37th in points, I believe. He started this race in 38th position, but was around the front, kept his nose clean, kept himself out of trouble. And you look at this shot here, Brian Terry led 30 laps. It's not like Brian Terry made a strategy call with 5 to go, stayed out. Brian Terry led a lot of laps there at the end of the race and really got better as the race went on. So Chris, what did you see from Brian that made him so successful on Monday?
Well, after the race, I think Brian kind of talked about he talked about the long run, which really I think in the race there was no long run, but I think he made some good decisions of staying out on older tires and running conservatively enough and aggressively enough to be able to hold his position, and it certainly worked out for him. There were definitely some cars up there that you would typically see up there, still even at the end, but he definitely made a good call. I mean, I wouldn't say Brian Terry's nobody in this league, but he's not somebody who has been challenging for wins. He hasn't had great finishes in the league, and I know that from talking to him after the race that he really felt relieved to be able to accomplish such a big thing. I mean, getting a win in this league is not an easy thing to do, and I'm sure, Todd, you know, Jacob, you both know that you can run fast and it's still hard to get a win, so a big accomplishment for Brian.
All right, and we've been told that I was sharing some proprietary technology, not the actual results from the last race on the last screen share. So hopefully I've corrected it this time. But let's look at your top 10 finishers. Lee Pierce started P41. James Hickson P42 on the start.
I'll just say about Lee and James. You know, Lee was the last guy to qualify in this week and the week before, so you know he's had to fight to even get into the shows. So a good showing for him.
Absolutely. Looking at the rest, Matt Bontempi, somebody you're used to seeing up there. Brad Wren, you know, been hanging around all season. Brad Wren's not exactly slow, gets him a good finish. I made a strategy call. I felt like if I was going to win the race, and that's what I was in the race for, I was running P2 when the last caution came out. I didn't feel like I had the speed to pass Brian on speed. Made the decision to come in and get tires. Came out 8th, I think, and finished P6. Ty McWhorter is usually pretty fast up in the top 5. Some other names that you maybe don't usually see: Julio Truzado up there, P4. Chris Chisler, somebody that's been around for a while, gets him finally a good finish with a P3. Tyler Herr is somebody that's been fast and up front, already has a win this season, finishes P2. But Jacob, a lot of people that usually aren't towards the front get them some good finishes. So I'm sure you've maybe been able to speak with those guys. Talk about their excitement in racing towards the front on Monday.
Yeah, I'm looking through the team standings and stuff. I know there's definitely some teams who are able to kind of excel a little bit. You have 2 drivers with Aegis Racing finishing 1st and 4th with Brian and Julio, which is really good runs for them as they're a small team. And then 2nd and 3rd, you have 2 guys from 2 to Green who are able to come home with top 5s as well. I think when you look through the top 10, you really see a lot of different drivers and teams represented, which is good to see. Like Chris's team with Out of Gas Racing had Jimbo Hickson and Lee in there, and Papa Fife was running really well until the next to last caution, I believe, and he had a shot at the top 10 too.
And I'll throw in Cody Smith, who was also finished 12th. So
yeah. Most
of my team was up there.
Where were you?
I was in the back with you, bud.
No, but a lot of good runs, a lot of different people up at the front, which I like to see that. I like to see the underdog get some success and have a shot at getting a win. So definitely good for each of those drivers.
All right, so we're having a little bit of technical difficulties apparently with the screen sharing. We're trying to work on that and make sure everything works. But next we kind of update on the league in general and any penalties that maybe came from Kansas. We did have 12 cautions. Yours truly causes a second caution since the rules have changed, and I'm staring that 1-week suspension right in the face. So we're a little worried about that. There might have been some other things that happened at Kansas, so we're going to go ahead and kick it to you, Jacob, as the league administrator. Any announcements on the league admin side?
Yeah, just with the caution count, that's been updated. So you want to get a look at that. Since there's 12 cautions, there was a lot of guys who've been added to the list. And just remember, after 3 cautions, as Todd mentioned, it's a 1-week suspension. That's something we adjusted in the past couple weeks. There is a suspension to hand down from Kansas with Derek Bordeaux alt F4ing from the race. So that's a 5-week suspension. But other than that, there's nothing real heavy to really go on. Matt Busa and Drew Carroll came back from suspension this week at Kansas, so they'll be with us hopefully from here on out. And like I said, just keep track of that caution count and the rules relating to that, and just keep it in mind when you're racing out there, because those cautions can add up quickly.
All right, and this is actually the first time that we've had another league admin, or advisor on the show. So someone else that maybe has some workings in behind the scenes. So Chris, I want to get, a lot of people only, associate Jacob with the discipline and think it's something that Jacob does only on his own. But you as the advisor, some of the other admins, can you tell us a little bit about the role that you guys have in working with Jacob behind the scenes to make the league run efficiently? Yeah,
sure. Well, first of all, I'll say that I didn't join Jacob to help him out with the league to hand out penalties. That's definitely not my favorite thing to do, and I don't think any of us enjoy doing that. But it's part of the gig. There's a rule book, and we really try to look at it based strictly on the rule book. Try to take all of the personal feelings out of the matters, and really what happens is maybe if something is questionable, then Jacob will engage one or multiple admins. It just depends on what the situation is, and we'll give them an honest opinion of what happened. There were definitely input from every one of the admins on the Alt F4 situation this week, which is it's a big deal because there are so many people trying to get into these races. If you don't want to race and you're not going to commit to it, you need to serve a big penalty because we're sending people home every week, people who would go out there and race the full race. So it's a tough thing to hand out penalties, but it's part of the gig.
Yeah. I know one of my teammates is I forget his last name, but Chad. I can't remember Chad's last name right now off the top of my head.
Dylan.
Chad Dillon. I believe Chad's only made 3 races. Has come out, tried to qualify for every single race this season, and has made 3. And Chad will own up to that. He says he knows he's got to get faster, but nothing is more he's stepped in for this league and stepped into the broadcast booth to help this league be successful. And there's nothing when he hasn't made races, and there's nothing more frustrating for someone like Chad to try as hard as he can to try to make a race. And I wish these people would stop trying to message me during the show sometimes. But there's nothing more frustrating than trying to make a race, pouring your heart into it for a couple of hours, trying to get fast, not making the race, and seeing somebody that has a lot of speed just quit because things aren't going their way. There's nothing more frustrating for them than that. So I think that's something we've got to enforce.
Yeah, well, and on the flip side, there's good that comes out of those people that tried too. Like Randy Fish made this race. Really, it's the first race that he made it into, and you know what? He ran into some bad luck at the beginning of the race, and he crashed, and he stuck with it. He fixed his car, and he battled. And believe it or not, he and I were battling on the last lap for P28. So people care to race, and it's important. So.
All right, so moving forward, we've got the really briefly, we don't have a lot of time. We've got about, looks like 9 days until Dover is here. And I know my flight is 8 days away. Unfortunately, it looks like Hartsfield's going to go over some security overhauls, so my flight from Atlanta might be a little tenuous getting through security. But I'll be flying up to Dover in 8 days and arriving there in Philadelphia. So Jacob, you're kind of in charge of putting that whole shindig together. Talk a little bit about the 3rd annual IRL get-together at Dover International Speedway.
Yeah. First of all, I'll say keep the liquids off the plane. That's your first tip of the week for you, Todd. No, at Dover should be a lot of fun. We have, like I said, we have a few guys coming to join us for that event, and we're starting to get the tickets together and everything for that now. As I mentioned before, if you're going to be in town and going to be at the races anyway, because I know there's a lot of drivers who are members who are of the Mid-Atlantic region or that area, hit me up on a message on Facebook or something saying you want to get together, or maybe grab lunch with the guys or something, even something simple as that. We'd love to meet up with you and just spend some time with you and get to know you. Because like I said, it's going to be a great time. We'll be doing all kinds of stuff all weekend, Friday through Sunday, which should be interesting, but it'll be fun as well. So I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of hard to believe it's only a week away now, as of tomorrow, basically. So I'm definitely getting excited for it. Looking forward to meeting some of you, and hope to see you guys out at the racetrack.
All right, so we're going to pivot to our chase standings and give an update. And one of the reasons we want to talk about the chase standings is things changed in a big way on Monday. If you look at, these are the chase standings, so they are sorted by wins. So even though Andrew Fayesh has a large, near triple-digit points lead in the overall points, it's important to note that once the reset happens after Richmond, everything's going to change. And if the chase was to start right now, Tyler Hudson would be your points leader based on the fact that he has 4 wins. So when you look up there towards the front of that pack, Chris, you see a lot of people up there that have a lot of speed, people with wins. Tyler's got 4 wins. Andrew has 2. So that's a large bulk of the wins. But Brian Terry sneaks in. I don't want to say steals a win. He earned it. Earns a win at Kansas and locks himself into the chase, assuming he makes 14 races. So that changed a lot, Chris. And talk about those chase standings and what maybe sticks out to you amongst those guys that are in the chase.
Well, I'll tell you that to me, the fact that Brian Terry got that win puts a lot of pressure on the people that are up there in points, but maybe not, maybe don't have that win. Makes it all that more important to get a win. And I know, Todd, you're one of those guys that was really, really hoping to be able to capitalize and get a win. And you know, it's not every race that some of the fastest people are going to run into problems. Andrew Fayesh is not going to run into problems every single week. You know, those situations are going to be few and far between. And when you don't have to battle against him or maybe even Tyler Hudson, I think the odds are better for one of those guys to get a win. So, you know, points are nice, but wins are what's going to take to get in, I think.
Yeah, I think everybody in the room in my position of, I would really like to get a win. When Tyler Hudson doesn't enter the room on Monday nights, you think, all right, I got a chance. I got to try to steal one if I can. And then Andrew Fayesh has some trouble. And you think, oh, my God, 2 of the fastest guys in this league are out of this race. I know my eyes, you know, kind of perked up a little bit. I got a chance here. And so congrats to Brian Terry on capitalizing on that chance, you know, keeping his car clean, getting up to the front when it mattered, and leading the last 30 laps of the race, I believe, to get that victory. So Jacob, I kind of want to get your input on the standings. As we scroll down a little bit here, I'm going to go ahead and put our standings back up on the screen. As we begin to scroll down, you see those names that maybe don't have a win but are currently maybe in good shape. Adam de Blasio, Bradley Havard, William Dunn, yourself, maybe in good shape. As you continue to scroll, people like me, James Hudson, Ty McWhorter, Carlos Fonseca, yeah, we're currently in the chase, but you got to imagine a few other winners are probably going to sneak up there. And then we continue to scroll down. Talk about that bubble and what we can maybe see around there.
Yeah, my name's getting closer and closer to that bubble. I just need to keep your name between where mine is the bubble, and I might be all right. But like you look at the standings there that was up earlier, you know, there's only 2 points between me and where Todd is, and we're talking about Todd being close to the bubble, and I'm okay. So it's going to get tight. I think more people are going to win as we go along. And you have some really talented guys that are either on the cut line or just under it. When you're talking about guys who made the chase last year with Jason K. Miller, Jay Heishman, Trevor Dalton, you know, and you have some other Guillermo Alvarez did very well in the chase last year, and he's relatively well below the cut line. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things play out. The wins are going to become more and more important as the season goes on, and it's just, you know, the guys who are trying to make it in on points, you know, maybe like myself or Todd, that window to kind of sneak in, you know, gets smaller and smaller, and so it's definitely going to be interesting. In this week, with Kansas, with Brian winning, really, you know, kind of changed the dynamic a little bit. So it's definitely going to be tense as we get closer to Richmond.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and put our chase points back on the board because you mentioned the points are pretty darn close. And something I want to hit, Brian Terry gets the win. He's the last driver currently entered at the chase with a win. If you look at the driver immediately below him, that's Adam de Blasio, the top points runner right now amongst drivers that doesn't have a win. Adam has 308 points. 6 places down is myself, and I'm at 291. So you have 6 drivers all within 17 points that don't have a win right now. And you have to imagine amongst those 6, and then go ahead and throw James Hudson, Ty McWhorter, and Carlos Fonseca, who are maybe a little bit farther back. There's only going to be 2, 3, maybe 4 if they're lucky spots for non-winners. So that's going to be a very, very interesting and fun race to watch. And then as I do scroll down here, as Jacob kind of mentioned, a lot of really good drivers that were in the chase last year that are currently on the outside looking in. Jay Heisman on the outside looking in. Michael Dole's a fast driver. Jason K. Miller in the chase last year. Trevor Dalton in the chase last year. Guillermo Alvarez in the chase last year. Alan Pajardi in the chase last year. Chris Schitzler is 30th in points. He was in the last in the chase last year. So we're definitely seeing some fast drivers that just haven't been able to get good finishes this year, and are trying to scramble to either get a lot of points quickly or get that victory. So that kind of wraps up our look at the chase. Now we're going to actually take a few good minutes and try to get to know our league advisor a little bit, the man behind the curtain, so to speak. And get to know Chris. So, Chris, kind of show us that rig you got there behind you. Show the viewers what you're driving.
I don't know if you can see it, but I think I have pretty much the same thing as you. I have a 3 monitors Obutto rig and a little button box. I like to race to 39th place finishes in style.
If you can't be fast, you might as well be looking good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's all about feeling like you're racing.
Absolutely. So you obviously have a passion for racing. What kind of got you into sim racing? When did you get started, and what kind of ticked you to, hey, this is something I want to get involved in?
So I'd say I started sim racing in NASCAR 2003 back in Papyrus days, but I never raced in any leagues. I raced with a few friends and things like that, and then I got busy. I'm sure a lot of people can appreciate that. I'm a little older. I got busy with life and kids and all of those things, and sim racing kind of went by the wayside. But my son got into Forza, and I was like researching wheels for Forza because I couldn't stand playing with the freaking controller. And sure enough, I found iRacing. I abandoned it by a wheel for Forza, and I built a rig to run iRacing instead.
All right, so you talked about your kids. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you're living, what your family life looks like.
Yeah, so my wife and I, we lived in Tampa, Florida for like 20 years, and we just recently, last year, moved back home to Denver. My wife is from Denver. We have one son. My son's 11 years old, and he's lightning fast on Forza. One of these days, when he feels like it, he'll probably be lapping me on iRacing. So, but yeah, we have a lot of family here in Denver, which is really nice. We had none down in Florida, so big difference here, living here close to family, and we really enjoy that. So,
a lot of people associate, and we haven't talked about this before the show at all, so I might be throwing a bit of a curveball. But when everybody thinks about Colorado nowadays, they think about the recreational marijuana use. And I'm not going to ask you about your consumption of any recreational or medicinal activities, but have you noticed anything about the way life has changed with Denver as a part of that law?
So I'll just say that it wasn't a motivational factor for me to move here, but and I will also say that it's kind of enforced on a county by county basis, and my county doesn't allow it. So it's life goes on here. But if you go different places, there's definitely lots of shops, lots of tourists who don't heed the advisories like, hey, take one little square of that chocolate bar, not the whole chocolate bar. Yeah, that kind of thing. So I get a lot of questions about it, that's for sure, but it's not my thing.
Okay. Any craft beers or anything like that you're a fan of, or what's your favorite beverage of choice, I guess?
So yeah, I mean, Tampa was a great craft beer place as well, but Denver's got a ton of craft beers. I love IPAs, and I just try just about as many different ones as I possibly can, and there's so many to choose from here. Every time I go to the store, I find something new, and I can't say enough about Breckenridge Distillery, which, if you like bourbon from Colorado, Breckenridge bourbon is freaking fantastic.
Okay. What would you say has been your greatest accomplishment? You said you got a few gray hairs popping up, and maybe you're a little bit older than a lot of the drivers in the league. What is some maybe your greatest accomplishment, or what is maybe some advice that you would give to any of the drivers watching the show?
Well, you know, I am a little bit older. I have a very established career, but those things are all nice. But frankly, my biggest accomplishment is my family. Um, you know, my wife, my kids. I'm very proud to be a part of this family. That's my biggest accomplishment. I'm very proud of that. So I try to. I'm not always right, and I know that. Um, so I just try to I try to toe the line, do the right things, and when I don't, I try to learn from them. That's it, you know. And I try not to get too upset. You know, I yell at Jacob sometimes, but
Only when I
otherwise,
deserve it. Okay.
All right. So I know Jacob and myself are golfers, and I'm not sure if you are. But if you were to get a choice of a golf foursome with you and three other individuals, past, living, alive, dead, doesn't matter. Maybe who would you choose, and why would that be?
Well, first of all, I'm not a golfer, so I would choose my dad because he is a golfer. And then I would choose Tiger Woods because my dad's fascinated with Tiger Woods, even though Tiger Woods isn't who he used to be. And then maybe Jack Nicholson. Just
Jack Nicholson or Nicholas?
Nicholas, yeah. See, exactly.
Okay.
I ain't no golfer, but yeah. You know, I picked them so my dad could enjoy it because I could care less about golf.
All right. So you say you don't care about golf. Any other sports teams or activities you enjoy and follow?
So yeah, right now is friggin' hockey playoff time, and I'm a big time Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I would have been at Game 7 when they won the Stanley Cup in 2004. My wife was 9 months pregnant and said she couldn't handle it anymore. She's a wuss. So, but yeah, I love the Lightning. I love hockey, and of course, my football team is the Dallas Cowboys, which I'm a loner here in this house. My son and my wife are big time Broncos fans. So.
Okay. All right, so that's going to wrap up our 5 good minutes with our guest, Chris. Thanks for joining the show and all you do for the league. We're going to go ahead and transition now to what's coming up in the league. I'm pleased to announce, I'm pleased to announce that as we move forward and we go to Dover International Speedway,
Go ahead, say it, Todd. You can do it.
We're going to run the Todd Loves Trump 200 presented by Suited Pocket Rockets, which is a sponsorship from Jay Heisman, which was actually the first sponsorship that was announced. So 200 laps around the 1 mile Monster Mile at Dover International Speedway. Jacob, that was actually the first sponsored race. Was the Todd Loves Trump 200. By Jay Heisman and Suited Pocket Rockets. So did Jay approach you, and what did you think whenever he said, I want to name the race after Todd's love of Donald Trump?
Well, I laughed really hard for a long time knowing your political beliefs. But no, basically when I approached Jay about doing the team challenge as something different to try to do, and just, it helps, sponsor the league, and then he commented about well, how much would it cost to do a race, and I was like, I just threw out a number. I said $10, and he's like, oh, okay, well, I'll take both Dover races. He's from the Dover area, and you'll see him if you go to the Dover race with us, but yeah, he's just like, we'll throw, just throw the 2 Dover races up. So I was like, sure. And then he gave me, apparently y'all were talking about politics that day in your team chat or something like that. And so he decided to throw you under the bus a little bit and make it the Todd Loves Trump 200 because, you're such a big fan, obviously. We can tell by how ecstatic you were to announce the race, how much you love Trump. So we're having a little fun with it, but it should be hopefully a good race. I did a few laps earlier today and yesterday. It's loose, sadly, but I'm right around 23.4 for my times, and I've heard of a tenth or two faster and a tenth or two slower either way. So
how about a 7? How about a 7? That's it.
there you go. Hey, that's what Papa Fife was running. So
Hey,
y'all
there
are
we
right
go.
together.
We're in good
Teammates
shape.
got to stick together. But yeah. So hopefully it'll be a good night. We'll certainly have fun with the sponsorship for sure. He's got a nice logo and everything. I'll have to post when we get done with this. But I definitely want to thank Jay for sponsoring the race, and hopefully it'll be a good night Monday.
All right, and Chris, I don't know if you've been able to run any laps at Dover, or I'm sure you've raced there before. What do you think of the Todd Loves Trump 200 presented by Suited Pocket Rockets?
Well, first of all, yeah, I did run a couple laps, and I hit some 7s, which is not too bad for me, I don't think, for this early in the week. And I will say that it does look like you can race at Dover, which is different than Kansas, and I think that'll be a good thing. Bad news for probably a lot of people. I think Andrew really likes this track. And
and Andrew does run. I wasn't a member of the league, I don't believe, whenever this race was run in the spring. But from speaking with Tyler Herr, I think he led a lot of laps in this race last year with drivers like Tyler Hudson and Andrew Fayesh up towards the front. So Tyler Herr's maybe a good sleeper pick. I know he really enjoys this track. I know he's a teammate. He's been a member of the show before. But I think Tyler's maybe someone to look out for next week.
Yeah, Mr. Fife here's been up front a few times too.
Yeah, not really a track I personally enjoy. My main goal is not to cause a caution so I don't get suspended for Charlotte, where I am a little bit quicker. So really quickly, we kind of skipped over something we wanted to hit on before the end of the show. We do want to update the rookie points, the Shane Ashmore Rookie of the Year Cup. Quick update, we haven't looked at this in a few weeks. Adam de Blasio maintains a lead after a ruling that Jacob made after the race on Monday. We'll allow him to talk about that. Traven Morgan 8 points back, a teammate of Adams on 2 to Green. So 2 to Green first and second on the Rookie of the Year Cup. Ty McWhorter in third, 15 points back. Brian Wren in fourth. And then a very close battle between fourth, fifth, and sixth with Brad Wren, Brendan Burkhoff, and Sam Roush. Jacob, you want to kind of talk about that decision to give Adam de Blasio back his fourth place finish on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, it's just something we reviewed, and it's not like we docked the drivers who originally had those positions. We just gave him the rookie points and the championship points for where he crossed the line under caution. The caution had already come out. The field was basically set, and I think as people were checking up to slow down for the caution, one of the drivers got in the back of him, and he kind of spun out, and then was able to get it back going again and try to catch up, but they kind of reordered him in a different spot. So, in the light of fairness, without hurting the other drivers, we went ahead and just gave him those points that he would have gotten otherwise, since the field was basically frozen. So that's basically how that went, and we'll just go on from there. Still a long way to go, so definitely tight race and can get tighter. There's a couple guys in here who can run really well and challenge him for the Rookie of the Year for sure.
All right, so that's going to wrap up episode 4 of the Integrity Racing Show. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank again to our guests, Jacob Fife and Chris Freeman, for joining us. We'll see you Monday night at Dover for the Todd Loves Trump 200, presented by Suited Pocket Rockets. And we'll hopefully see you next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Denver International Raceway. But if not, we'll see you next Thursday at 8 o'clock for episode 5 of the Integrity Racing Show. Have a good night, everyone.
See you guys.